Have you ever looked into your dog's eyes and felt like you were staring at someone you've known forever? That inexplicable sense of recognition, that deep knowing that transcends words or logic. What if I told you that feeling isn't just your imagination? What if the bond you share with your beloved companion is not a product of chance, but something far more ancient, far more profound than you ever dared to believe? Now imagine this scene. It's 1933, and a woman sits nervously in the consultation room of one of the most brilliant minds of the 20th century. She's not there to discuss her own psychological struggles or unlock repressed memories from her childhood. No, she's come with a question that has been haunting her soul, a question about her small dog, Mona. This woman, known only as Mrs. 268 in historical records, has travelled to see Carl Jung himself, the legendary psychologist who mapped the depths of the collective unconscious and explored territories of the human psyche that science had barely begun to acknowledge. But what she's about to hear will shake everything she thought she knew about the nature of consciousness, the soul, and the mysterious creatures we call our pets. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Has this ever happened to you? Have you ever felt that your pet understands you in ways that even your closest human friends don't? That they appear in your life at exactly the moment you need them most, as if guided by some invisible hand? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might completely transform how you see that furry companion sleeping at your feet right now. Jung listened carefully to Mrs. 268's question. She wanted to know if she and Mona had shared previous lifetimes together, if their connection extended beyond this single earthly existence. What he revealed in that session would become one of the most extraordinary cases in the annals of depth psychology and spiritual research. With the calm authority that characterized his work, Jung told her something that seemed impossible, something that defied every conventional understanding of animal nature and reincarnation. He told her that Mona, this small, gentle companion who curled up beside her every night, had once been a lioness, not just any lioness, but a fierce creature of ancient Rome, one who had fought in the brutal spectacles of the Colosseum itself. But the revelation went even deeper. This lioness, Jung explained, had faced Mrs. 268's own husband in mortal combat during those dark days when Christians were thrown to the beasts for entertainment. Pause for a moment and let that sink in. The same soul that once embodied raw primal power in the arena now existed as a devoted companion, choosing to return to the same people it had encountered in that ancient, violent encounter. What does this tell us about the journey of souls? About the nature of love and connection that can survive not just death, but transformation across species and millennia. What you're about to discover in the rest of this exploration will challenge everything mainstream thinking has told you about animals, about death, and about the eternal bonds. That this revelation from Jung's work opens up something far more profound than a simple historical curiosity. It forces us to confront questions that touch the very core of our existence and the mysterious bonds we form with the creatures who share our lives. What is the true nature of an animal soul? When that soul departs from the physical body we've come to know and love, where does it go? And perhaps most importantly, what does this mean for that connection you feel in your heart, that bond that seems to defy rational explanation? These aren't just philosophical musings for academic debate. These questions become achingly real in those moments of devastating loss. If you've ever experienced the death of a beloved pet, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The grief doesn't arrive as some minor inconvenience that passes quickly. It crashes over you like a wave, leaving you breathless in its wake. It's the empty space by the door where they always waited for you to come home, their tail already wagging before you even turned the key. It's the profound silence that fills the room where their soft breathing used to lull you to sleep. It's that automatic gesture, reaching down to pet them, only to find nothing but empty air where their warm body should be. In those raw moments of loss, when the pain feels almost unbearable, a question rises from the deepest chambers of your soul, demanding an answer. Where did they go? Are they simply gone forever, extinguished like a candle flame? Or does something of them continue? And if so, will you ever see them again? These aren't idle wonderings. They represent a fundamental human need to understand the nature of love, connection, and whether death truly has the final word. For centuries, when grieving pet owners turned to traditional religious institutions seeking comfort and answers, they were met with a response that offered little solace. The official doctrine from most mainstream religious traditions was stark and uncompromising. Animals, they were told, do not possess souls. They cannot enter any heavenly realm. When they die, their consciousness is simply extinguished, snuffed out completely, as if they had never existed at all. The message was clear. Your grief, while understandable, is ultimately about something that wasn't truly real in any spiritual sense. If this resonated with you, I'd be grateful if you'd subscribe. We explore the hidden dimensions of consciousness, love, and the spiritual truths that mainstream thinking overlooks. This is where we dive deep into what really matters. This perspective created an enormous gap between what people felt in their hearts and what they were told to believe by religious authority. The profound sense of connection, the unmistakable feeling that their animal companion possessed consciousness, personality, and even wisdom. All of this was dismissed as anthropomorphic projection, as humans simply reading their own qualities into creatures that were essentially biological automatons without any true inner life. But what if everything we've been told about animals and souls represents a fundamental misunderstanding of reality? What if the truth is far more beautiful, far more mysterious, and far more hopeful than we ever imagined? Now, I want to go even deeper into this hidden truth, because Jung's work unveiled something that challenges not just religious dogma, but our entire understanding of consciousness itself. The transformation from lioness to companion dog wasn't random. It was part of a journey that reveals the true nature of right. In the comments, I believe in eternal bonds, if this resonates with your own experience. What Jung uncovered in his decades of psychological and spiritual research presents a radically different understanding of reality itself, one that turns conventional thinking completely on its head. His exploration of the collective unconscious revealed something extraordinary. Everything that exists in our physical world is not separate from the divine, but rather an expression of it. This isn't some abstract philosophical concept disconnected from your daily life and the dog sleeping at your feet right now. This is a fundamental truth about the nature of existence that changes everything. Jung understood that spirit didn't create matter as something separate from itself, something inferior or less than divine. Instead, spirit pushed itself into matter, taking on physical form in what we observe in our three-dimensional reality. This manifestation occurs at every level of existence, creating what we recognize as the kingdoms of Earth. The mineral kingdom with its rocks and crystals, the vegetable kingdom with its plants and trees, and yes, the animal kingdom with every creature that walks, swims, flies, or crawls across this planet. This means your dog, your cat, the bird singing outside your window, every animal you've ever loved. or will love. They're not soulless biological machines programmed by evolution and nothing more. They represent spirit made manifest, divine consciousness expressing itself in fur and feathers, in wagging tails and purring contentment. The very essence that animates them comes from the same source that animates you. We're all threads in the same cosmic tapestry, all expressions of the same fundamental creative force. But here's where Jung's understanding reveals something crucial, something that helps us grasp why animals seem to live in a state of grace that humans struggle to achieve. While animals absolutely possess a spiritual nature, while they carry within them that divine life essence, there exists one fundamental difference between human souls and animal souls. And it's not what you might think. It's not about intelligence or complexity or worthiness. The difference isn't a hierarchy where humans sit above animals on some spiritual ladder. The distinction lies in a single, profound factor: free will. Animals cannot choose to defy their creator the way humans can. They cannot make decisions that separate them from divine law or natural harmony. This isn't a limitation in the negative sense. It's actually a kind of spiritual purity that we've lost in our human journey. Think about what this really means. Your dog doesn't struggle with existential doubt or inner conflict about whether to follow its true nature. It doesn't lie awake at night questioning its purpose or battling with decisions that pull it away from its authentic self. Animals live in complete alignment with what they are, operating in perfect harmony with the creative forces that brought them into being. This revelation transforms how we understand the spiritual journey itself. Humans received the gift of free will, the ability to choose, to decide our own path, to say yes or no even to the divine. This freedom is simultaneously our greatest blessing and our deepest challenge. It allows for transformation and growth through conscious choice, but it also opens the door to separation, to suffering, to moving away from our source. Animals don't face this particular struggle. Their journey unfolds differently, guided by something we might call instinct, but which Jung understood as a direct connection to. If you've ever felt that your pet lives more authentically than most people you know, type authentic connection in the comments below. This divine connection manifests in ways we witness every single day but rarely pause to truly comprehend. Your dog, living in that state of pure innocence, exists closer to divine harmony than most humans ever achieve in their entire lifetime. Think about this for a moment. Every wag of their tail isn't a calculated response designed to manipulate you. It's pure, unfiltered joy expressing itself through physical form. Every moment of unconditional love they offer isn't contingent on your mood, your success, your appearance, or whether you've been a good person that day. It simply flows from them like water from a spring, endless and effortless. Every instance of pure joy they experience at simply being alive, the excitement over a walk, the contentment of lying in a sunbeam, the absolute bliss of a good meal. These aren't trivial experiences. They're expressions of a soul in complete alignment with its creator, living each moment fully present, fully authentic, fully connected to the source of all life. This innocence, this purity of being, represents a state that spiritual teachers across traditions have told us to aspire toward. And here it is, embodied in the creature curled up beside you. But here's what mainstream thinking gets catastrophically wrong. They tell us this innocence, this love, this consciousness simply vanishes when death comes. Jung's research, however, revealed a hidden truth that brings profound comfort to anyone who has ever loved and lost an animal companion. The lives of animals continue after physical death. Let me say that again because it's crucial. They don't simply blink out of existence like a light being switched off. Their spirit, their essence, and most importantly, the love they carry, All of it continues in the spiritual realm, transformed but not extinguished. The physical body may fail, may return to the earth from which it came, but the consciousness that animated that body, the soul that looked out through those eyes and recognized you, that part continues its journey. Death is not an ending, but a transformation, a shifting from one state of being into another. Just as Jung understood that spirit pushes into matter to create physical form, so too does spirit withdraw from matter when that particular manifestation has completed its purpose, returning to the unseen realms from which it emerged. But the revelation goes even deeper than simple continuation of consciousness. Jung discovered something that fundamentally changes how we understand these relationships. Animals reincarnate. They return to physical form again and again, taking on new bodies, new lives, experiencing the journey through matter just as human souls do. This isn't some abstract theory disconnected from your life. This has direct, immediate impact on understanding the bond you share with your pet. Even more beautiful and hope-filled is this. Animals tend to stay with certain soul groups. They travel together through lifetimes with the beings they love, choosing to return to the same humans over and over again in different forms, different circumstances, different eras. That inexplicable feeling you had when you first met your dog, that sense of instant recognition, that certainty that this was your dog, even though you'd never seen them before, maybe it wasn't coincidence at all. Maybe it was leave a comment with soul recognition if you've ever experienced this instant knowing with an animal. Maybe it was remembering, a soul recognizing another soul it had loved, before across the vast expanse of time and space. This concept of soul groups traveling together isn't unique to human relationships. Just as human souls journey through incarnations, meeting as lovers in one lifetime, as parent and child in another, as friends or siblings or mentors in yet another arrangement, animals participate in this same eternal dance of connection and reunion. That dog who understands you in ways that even your closest human friends don't, who seems to read your emotional state before you've even fully recognized it yourself, who knows exactly when to approach and when to give space. They may very well have been with you before, many lifetimes before, in different forms, under different circumstances, playing different roles, but always connected by that invisible thread of love and recognition that transcends the physical realm. The case of Mona the dog reveals the deeper mechanics behind these connections. The woman's niece also consulted Jung about Mona, asking her own questions about the small companion. What Jung revealed stunned both women. The niece had known Mona in that same Roman incarnation. This wasn't a relationship that began when Mona entered their family as a puppy. The connection stretched back nearly 2,000 years, through violence and transformation, through death and rebirth, until these souls found each other again in a completely different configuration. Hit that like button if this shifted something in how you see your pet. That connection we built here is real, and it helps this reach others who need to hear it. Another person who sought Jung's insight was told that their current pet had been with them in an ancient Egyptian lifetime. The pattern becomes unmistakable when you look at case after case. These aren't random connections formed by convenience or circumstance. These are soul contracts, sacred agreements between spirits who choose to journey together through the endless cycles of existence. Before incarnating into physical form, souls make decisions about who they'll travel with, who they'll love, who they'll learn from and teach. Your dog didn't just happen to be at that shelter the day you walked in. That stray who appeared on your doorstep during the darkest period of your life wasn't there by accident. These meetings represent the fulfillment of agreements made in realms beyond our normal perception, promises kept across the boundaries of time and form. The recognition you felt, that inexplicable certainty that this was your animal, That was your soul remembering the contract, acknowledging the familiar presence of someone you'd loved before. When Jung was asked whether Mona would always incarnate as a dog in future lives, his answer reveals something profound about the nature of these journeys. He said no, that the form would depend on environment and circumstances. Consider what had already occurred. The soul, that was once a fierce lioness stalking the sands of the Colosseum, had already transformed into a small, gentle companion dog, living peacefully in a 20th century home. The form changed dramatically. The species changed. The size, the temperament, the entire physical manifestation shifted completely. But here's what remained constant through all those transformations, through all those centuries, through death and rebirth and radical change. The bond of love remained eternal. The connection persisted. The soul contract continued to unfold. This tells us something crucial about the true nature of love itself. Real love, soul-level love, isn't dependent on the physical form. It doesn't require your dog to always be comment. Love transcends form. If this understanding resonates deeply with your experience of animal companionship, it doesn't require the same physical vessel each time, the same breed, the same size, or even the same species. Love operates at a level that physical form cannot touch or diminish. It exists in a realm where a lioness and a lapdog are both valid expressions of the same eternal essence, choosing to be near the ones it cherishes. When someone asked Jung whether a psychological reading could be obtained for Mona herself, his response was both humorous and deeply revealing. He said yes, it could certainly be done, but added with characteristic insight that you might not understand it unless you learned to speak dog language. On the surface, this seems like Jung's well-known wit shining through, but embedded in that playful answer lies profound wisdom about the nature of consciousness itself. Animal consciousness is real, valid, and complete. It's not a diminished version of human consciousness, not a rough draft or primitive prototype. It's a fully realized mode of being that operates by different principles, perceives reality through different filters, and expresses itself through different channels. When we try to understand animal consciousness using only human frameworks and human language, we're essentially trying to translate a symphony into a single instrument. Something essential gets lost in the translation, not because the original is lacking, but because we're using inadequate tools for the task. Dogs perceive the world in ways that would astonish us if we could truly grasp their experience. They navigate reality through scent in ways that create an entirely different dimensional map than the visual world we prioritize. They pick up on emotional frequencies and energy shifts that most humans have learned to ignore or dismiss. They experience time differently, live more fully in the present moment, and connect to the collective field of consciousness with an openness that our rational minds have largely shut down. Their souls aren't lesser souls, struggling to reach human levels of awareness. They're different souls operating by different rules, living in a different kind of alignment with the divine that we've actually lost in our human journey toward self-awareness and free will. This is crucial to understand because it shifts the entire paradigm. We're not looking down at animals from some superior position. We're looking across at fellow travelers on the spiritual journey who've chosen a different path, a different set of lessons, a different way of experiencing the divine mystery. Jung understood that animals operate according to what he called the collective consciousness, what most people simply refer to as instinct. But this collective mind isn't some mechanical programming that robs them of individuality or authentic experience. Anyone who's lived with multiple pets knows that each one has its own distinct personality, its own quirks, preferences, and ways of expressing themselves. The collective consciousness doesn't erase individuality. It provides a foundation of wisdom and connection that keeps them anchored in their true nature. Unlike humans, who can become twisted by ego, corrupted by fear, led astray by false beliefs, and destructive patterns, animals remain true to what they are. A dog doesn't pretend to be something it's not to gain social approval. A cat doesn't develop neurotic patterns trying to live up to impossible standards. They exist in authentic alignment with their essence moment by moment, and this authenticity creates type authentic being in the comments if you've learned this lesson from watching your pet live. This authentic alignment creates a healing presence that goes far beyond simple companionship. This brings us to something that transforms how we view these relationships entirely. Our pets come into our lives with sacred contracts already in place. They're not here by accident or random chance. They choose us, or perhaps more accurately, we choose each other at a soul level before incarnation even occurs, because there is specific work to be done, precise lessons to be learned, and particular expressions of love to be exchanged. Your dog might be teaching you patience in ways no human teacher ever could, showing you through daily interaction what it means to wait without resentment, to forgive instantly, to start each day fresh without carrying yesterday's grievances. They might be modeling loyalty, so pure and unwavering that it challenges everything you thought you knew about commitment and dedication. They're almost certainly teaching you how to live in the present moment, how to find joy in simple things, how to love without conditions or expectations or the complicated negotiations that characterize so many human relationships. These aren't minor lessons or trivial teachings. These are the fundamental spiritual principles that mystics and sages have pointed toward for millennia. And here they are, embodied in the creature who greets you at the door with unbridled enthusiasm simply because you exist. The impact of this teaching operates at levels deeper than conscious thought, reshaping your understanding of what it means to love and be loved, through direct experience rather than intellectual concepts. But the teaching doesn't end when their physical body fails. The journey continues in ways that many people experience, but few feel comfortable discussing openly. Those who have studied Jung's material on consciousness and the continuation of awareness after death report something remarkable. Pets continue to reach out to us after they've passed from physical form. This isn't wishful thinking or grief-induced hallucination. These are genuine encounters reported by countless people across cultures and belief systems. Have you ever sensed your departed pet's presence in the room with you? Heard the familiar click of nails on the hardwood floor when no physical animal was there? Felt the weight of their body settling onto the bed beside you in that spot they always claimed as theirs? Caught movement in your peripheral vision right where they used to sit watching you? These experiences are far more common than mainstream thinking acknowledges. People often keep quiet about them, fearing ridicule or dismissal, but the pattern repeats itself so consistently that it points to something real occurring. The souls of departed pets, according to those who work with Jung's principles of consciousness, often hover near us, especially in the period immediately following their physical death. They want us to know they're okay, that the transition wasn't the end they feared it might be. They want us to understand that death didn't sever the bond of love, didn't erase the connection, didn't end the relationship. Jung himself understood that death represents only passing through another door, a transition from one state of being into another, and this principle applies equally to all souls, whether right, I've felt their presence, if you've experienced these unmistakable signs from a pet who has passed. This principle applies equally to all souls, whether human or animal, whether clothed in 2 legs or 4. The signs they send take many forms, each one a gentle reminder that the connection persists beyond the veil of physical reality. People commonly report dreams where their departed pet appears not sick or aged as they were at the end, but healthy, vibrant, full of the energy they had in their prime. These aren't ordinary dreams that fade quickly upon waking. They carry a different quality, a vividness and emotional resonance that stays with you for days or even years afterward. The pet often communicates without words, conveying through pure feeling that they're fine, that they're still near, that love hasn't ended. Others experience physical sensations that defy rational explanation, the distinct weight of their pet settling onto the bed in the middle of the night, the unmistakable brush of fur against their leg as they sit reading, the warm presence in a favorite spot that somehow feels occupied even when visibly empty. If you have other animals in your household, you might notice them behaving strangely, staring intently at empty spaces, wagging their tail at nothing you can see, or suddenly moving aside as if making room for an invisible companion they can clearly perceive. Synchronicities multiply in ways that feel impossible to dismiss as mere coincidence. You might suddenly see your pet's specific breed everywhere you go when you rarely noticed them before. You might stumble across a lost toy you'd searched for months to find, appearing in a place you've checked dozens of times. You might hear their name spoken in unexpected contexts, see images that capture their exact expression, encounter reminders that feel deliberately placed in your path. And then there's perhaps the most beautiful sign of all, the appearance of a new animal in your life that carries some unmistakable essence of the one you lost. This doesn't mean they look identical or even similar, but something in their eyes, their mannerisms, their way of connecting with you triggers that deep recognition. Could this be the same soul returning, fulfilling the promise to find you again? Understanding all of this transforms how we approach our time with them in physical form. If your pet really does have a soul, if they genuinely chose you across the vast expanse of possibility, if your bond truly transcends death itself, then every single moment with them becomes sacred. Not just the joyful moments of play and cuddles, but all of it. Those early morning walks, when you'd rather stay warm in bed, become spiritual practice. The vet visits and difficult decisions become acts of love. The aging process with its slowing steps and graying muzzles becomes a privilege to witness. Even the goodbye, as heartbreaking as it is, becomes part of the sacred contract you share. In a world that often dismisses pet loss as somehow less significant than human loss, as something you should get over quickly and move on from, this understanding validates what you already know in your heart. This isn't just losing a pet in some trivial sense. This is a soul departure, a temporary separation from someone you genuinely love. Your grief isn't excessive or embarrassing or something to hide. Your grief is sacred grief. If you felt the depth of this loss and know it deserves to be honored, your grief is holy because it honors the profound bond you shared, and refusing to diminish that bond is an act of spiritual integrity. According to Jung's deep understanding of the psyche and the spiritual realm, love stands as the greatest force in the entire universe. This isn't poetic exaggeration or comforting metaphor. It's a fundamental truth about the nature of reality itself. Love literally cannot be destroyed. It transcends physical form, moves beyond the constraints of linear time, and continues undiminished even through the transition we call death. The love you share with your pet is part of that eternal force, woven into the very fabric of existence itself. This means something profoundly hopeful. You will meet again, maybe in this lifetime, if their soul chooses to return to you in a new form, finding you again through what seems like chance, but is actually the fulfillment of that ancient contract. Maybe on the other side, when your own physical journey concludes and you step through that same door they passed through before you. Maybe in future incarnations where you recognize each other instantly, despite completely different circumstances and forms. The how and when remain mysteries, but the certainty of reunion is grounded in the indestructible nature of genuine love. Understanding this hidden truth creates a profound shift in how we approach not just pet relationships, but our entire mindset around healing and wholeness. Acknowledging the deeper levels of animal existence leads to what researchers call a more complete healing attitude. And this transformation impacts not just our pets, but ourselves. When we truly recognize that animals possess soul, attributes, when we stop seeing them as mere biological machines and start honoring them as spiritual beings on their own journey, everything shifts dramatically. Those quiet moments sitting together in comfortable silence stop being just pleasant downtime and become spiritual communion, two souls sharing space and energy in mutual recognition. Your grief when they pass stops being something you should rush through or feel embarrassed about and becomes an appropriate, dignified response to soul departure. Those signs and synchronicities you experience afterward stop being dismissed as wishful thinking and reveal themselves as what they truly are. Real communication across dimensional boundaries, genuine contact from consciousness that continues beyond physical form. This shift in perspective creates ripples that extend far beyond your relationship with animals. It fundamentally alters how you understand consciousness itself, the nature of love, the meaning of death, and your place in the grand journey of existence. The impact on your own healing journey can be profound, opening doors to understanding that were previously closed by limiting beliefs about what's possible and what's real. Now, I want to explore something that might be the most transformative revelation of all. Maybe our pets aren't just companions traveling alongside us on our journey through life. Maybe they're actually teachers deliberately sent by the divine to remind us of essential truths we've forgotten, to model ways of being we've lost, to show us through their very existence what it means to live in alignment with our true nature. Think about how your dog lives, fully present in each moment, not ruminating about yesterday or anxious about tomorrow. They love without the complicated conditions and negotiations that so often characterize human relationships. They trust completely, approaching each day with right divine teachers if you've recognized your pet as a spiritual guide in your life. They trust completely, approaching each day with openness rather than cynicism born from past disappointments. They find genuine joy in the simplest things: a walk, a meal, a moment of connection. These aren't random behaviors or mere animal programming. These are the exact qualities we were designed to embody before life complicated us, before fear and ego twisted our natural state. When you look deeply into your pet's eyes and feel that stirring of recognition, that sense of being truly seen, you're experiencing something profound. That's two souls recognizing each other across what Jung called the dream of separation. That illusion that we're all isolated, disconnected beings moving through a meaningless universe. Your pet knows better. They've never forgotten the truth that you're gradually remembering, that we're all expressions of the same divine consciousness, that love is the thread connecting everything, and that death is just another doorway in an endless journey. So the next time you're with your dog, really be there. Look into those eyes that have found you across lifetimes. Feel the weight of their presence, knowing it's temporary in this particular form, but eternal in essence. And when the time comes to say goodbye, as it inevitably will, hold on to what you've learned here today. They're not gone. They've just stepped through the door ahead of you, and they'll be waiting with that same unconditional love, that same joyful recognition whenever you meet again. If this resonated with you, if something in this exploration touched that place in your heart where you've always known these truths, I'd be grateful if you'd subscribe to the channel. We dive deep into these kinds of topics regularly. The hidden dimensions of consciousness, the nature of love and death, the spiritual truths that mainstream thinking overlooks. This is where we explore what really matters. And if you made it all the way to the end, leave a comment saying "Soul Companion," so I know you were here, that this message found the person it was meant for. Your presence matters. Hit that like button if this shifted something in how you see your relationship with your pet, because that connection we built over these minutes, that's real. And it helps this content reach others who need to hear it. There's a video right here that goes even deeper into the nature of consciousness after death and what really happens in those first moments of transition. Click and continue with me over there. The journey doesn't end here until we meet again. Hold them close.